Hello there, freshmen. We are going to walk you through how to make some goals since this is your first assignment. You can see it right here. Your first assignment is due on October 18th, so you want to make sure that you have it done. You can watch the ICAP intro, kind of introduces myself if you want to, if you haven't done that already, but let's get ourselves into the goals. We're going to go to materials. We're going to go to ICAP 9, that's you guys, since you're 9th graders. I'm going to click into here, and this is what your ICAP looks like. If you want an introduction to how to navigate Naviance, you might want to pause me, go to your Schoology, and bring this up and play this. If you've never been to Naviance before, but I have links to Naviance in here for when we're ready to make our goals. And the assignment itself is right here. So we're going to click on that. And then it's got a couple of steps. One is open up the career and college readiness rubric and get ready to fill it out. It's right here. So you can pause me now and open it up before we get to how to fill it out. So feel free to pause me right here and go to your Schoology, go to ICAP 9, open it up, and I will wait for you. So pause me now. Okay, so I'm assuming that you paused me and have opened up your college and career readiness document. And you're going to need that for our presentation. Okay, so here is how to do goal setting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce goals. I'm going to talk about post-secondary readiness and evaluating 21st century knowledge and attitudes and skills. So you may not know anything about those right now, but you will after the end of this. I'm going to introduce co-curricular, extracurricular, and service learning opportunities, and we're going to connect current interests to future activities and college and career goals. So if you're not in class with me right now, what I want you to do is, if you're with somebody else, you can complete this activity together, but if you're not with somebody else, you can do this on your own as well. I want you to fill in the last part of the sentence stems that are there. So I have a sentence like, when I grow up, and then I want you to finish the sentence. Like I said, you can work with a neighbor. You can, if you're at home, you can work with your family. You can talk to your siblings, your parents if you want to. You can pause me here and go find somebody to work on this with. But don't spend too long, 5-10 minutes maybe doing something like this. It's to get our brains going in this goal setting activity. All right, so if you need to pause me now, you can pause me. And then, play me again when you've answered, when I grow up, I want to be this. 10 years in the future, this is going to happen. When I graduate from high school, this will happen. When I'm in college, this will happen. Or my dream job is, and finish the sentence. Now that we've done that, what I want to make sure that you understand is that the goal that you have then needs a path for you to reach your goal. So if you can see the slide here, right, you don't make it to success just by having a goal, just by thinking about it, right? You need a path to work toward to reach that goal. So what is the path that you're going to use to reach your college or career goal? The research is pretty clear. And what it says is that students need a couple things to be successful in reaching their college or career goals. One is academic knowledge. Two is 21st century and workforce skills. And three are certain key attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. So just like last time, if you're by yourself, then that's fine. You can do this on your own. If you're with a partner or if you have a family member around, you can bounce this off of. This would be great too. Try and brainstorm. What do you think academic knowledge means? What does academic knowledge mean? When you're done with that, try and brainstorm what do you think 21st century and workforce skills would be. And then finally, when you're done with that, think about the key attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. And what do you think that would include? Now here's where that rubric comes in, okay? We're going to talk about each of those three areas, and while we're doing that, what I want you to do is be filling out the rubric. It doesn't have to be totally exact, although if you want to know things like your GPA, or if you need to know specific information like that, you might want to ask me, because I could totally tell you what your GPA is. And if you can really ask any counselor. So if you're a children's hospital student, feel free to go ask Miss Johnson what your GPA is, and she could tell you too. Okay, but academic knowledge includes the core academic subjects when you think of school: reading, writing, math, science, and they're usually measured by two things: grades and standardized tests. So grades obviously are important because that calculates your GPA, but standardized tests are also important, like the ACT, like TCAP, because they're also, in conjunction with your grades, used to figure out where you should be, what classes you should be in, how much rigor you can handle, that sort of thing. So get out your college and career readiness rubric here and complete the first section. It's called academic knowledge, and what you want to do is make sure that you write down what you think your grade point average is. Remember, 4.0 is all A's, 3.0 would be all B's, 2.0 would be all C's, 1.0 would be all D's. You can also think about it in terms of standards-based grading, right, where you have unsat, partially proficient, proficient, and advanced proficient. Okay, so take a moment to fill that out, and then pause me for then, and then play me back when you're ready to continue. Of course, you want to be meeting, right? You want to be in that 2.5 to 4.0 GPA. You don't necessarily want mostly U's and PP's here, right? But you want to be realistic too. So you need to, this is a self-assessment, So if you have mostly U's and PP's, that still tells you important information. We've been talking about the goal plus the path. So remember when I said that these three areas are really important because the research says that in order to reach your goal, you need these three things to be in alignment. So let's talk about 21st century workforce skills.
Time they got left there. They got about 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Think they ready? Someone would find out. I want every genre to stand up and bump to this. Grab your strings. Your mics. Your guitars. Whatever you got. Let's get it poppin'. Let's go.
So you can see from the video that 21st century skills are not really about teaching a whole lot of content. It's about teaching these things on the screen. Because you can critically think, you can problem solve, you can make good decisions, you can collaborate on any number of areas using any kind of content, right? So the important thing about 21st century skills to remember is that it's not tied to content, it's across all contents. So now, this next section, I want you to use the college and career readiness rubric to think about your development of 21st century and workforce readiness skills. So you have two choices here. You can circle, I am still working on these skills, or yes, I use these skills effectively. So think about it, I apply logical reasoning and draw conclusions. Am I working on these skills? Is it hard for me to do that? Do I do it all the time? Isn't it easy? Is it easy? And then you can just go down through here and circle one for each of these areas as kind of a self-assessment. And then we'll continue on here. So let's talk about growth mindset. We chose this video because there's a lot of ways to think about how you perform as a student. And so some of the recent research into growth mindset is really interesting, because what it says basically is that if you have a positive outlook and you are interested in growing and making mistakes as part of learning, what that leads to is much more robust thinking and learning, So let's watch a couple videos here and you'll see what I mean. Here's the first video on growth mindset. Here's a real-world example of growth mindset with pigs.
Now, once again, don't forget to push your hands away from the ball, guys. Touch your hands. And turn, touch your hand over the game on the farm. And then push your one across before you sit down.
So what you can see from the videos is that somebody with a growth mindset is going to be willing to break down barriers and overcome obstacles and doesn't view mistakes as something that are going to destroy them. They view mistakes as something to learn from and grow from. And so let's take a little bit of time to look at the readiness rubric here and think about your academic attitudes and your beliefs about school. And then plot yourself on the number line. If you think I can succeed in my classes, if you really believe that you can succeed in your classes, circle a 10. If you kind of believe, you circle a 5. If you really don't believe that you can succeed in your classes, circle a 1. So here's what it'll look like when you're done with it, and then you can compare your results. Right. So pause me here while you do this. Okay, so now you can use the rubric here to kind of assess where you are in terms of your academic behaviors, in terms of how you see yourself. And it's time now for you to start setting some goals. So we've learned a couple of things about growth mindset, about goals plus a path, about 21st century workforce readiness and the skills you're going to need for this new world that we have here. So now it's time to think about setting up some goals. So how should we do that? Well, think about your goals and the path to achieve your goals as steps to achieve what you want in the future, right? So if you're going to increase your attendance to 90% or above that, and set aside 1 hour per night to read and study, complete homework, and increase organization by using a planner, cleaning out your binder and your backpack once a week, and earn 80% or above on each test or assignment that you do, and complete all assignments on time, what that's going to lead to is you fulfilling your goal. Let's talk about other things that go into your, or that might factor into your goals, and those are co-curricular interests and activities. I don't want you to think just about goals in the sense of, I have to get a 3.0 or, I'm going to this particular college. I want you to be a well-rounded person, right? And hopefully that you want that for yourself too. So there's all sorts of things that schools provide that, that you can do that aren't just academic but are fun and interesting. It's true that, academic focused goals are important, but there are also a bunch of other things out there that make your school experience interesting and fun. And so we call those co-curricular or extracurricular activities, and that can include service learning as well. These activities can either help you discover your talents or further explore things that you already like. And that'll help you reach your goals and build your resume too. So it's not all about your core academic subjects all the time. It can also be about extending that learning that you're doing in your core academic subjects to things that are interesting to you outside of the school day even. So some examples at APS Online, for instance, are the gaming club, there's student leadership, and you can bring to student leadership, a club or activity that you would like to attend, and see if anybody's willing to sponsor it. That's how the gaming club was started. There were students that went to leadership and were like, hey, we're really interested in gaming and gaming culture. We need some sponsors to start it up, and we're willing to come and do that. And we said, all right, well, I said I was interested, right? Mr. Trainer said he was interested, so guess what? Now we have a gaming club. You can also, though, do sports and those kind of activities at your home school at APS Online. So if your home school was Gateway and now you're an APS Online student, you can still do cheerleading at Gateway or football at Gateway or whatever the case is. Okay, so now we're ready to start setting up our goals, okay? In Naviance, you're going to go in there and set them up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you need to know what SMART stands for, I think, first, before we even get started with doing the goals, right? SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So specific means that you need details in your goal. You know, if it's too vague, then you're never going to accomplish it because you don't quite understand exactly what to do. For measurable, you want to use numbers or data or things that you can measure. Does that make sense? For attainable, you want to choose something that's a stretch for you, something that you have to push forward and work toward, but not something that's impossible for you. When we talk about being realistic, what we mean is that it should match your personality, your abilities, your skills. And timely, we want to make sure that you give the goal a time limit, a finite point where we can go back and say, all right, at the end of this quarter, at the end of this year, at the end of whatever the time period is, we can go back and take the measurements. If we were specific enough, we'll be able to, figure out if we met our goal or not. Here's a sample goal. I want to get good grades. I hear this all the time as a counselor. I heard this all the time as a teacher when I was teaching English at Hinckley. So let's go through the goal here. I want to get good grades. Well, it's not very specific. It doesn't talk about what a good grade means. It doesn't talk about what class we mean. It doesn't talk about anything really other than this vague idea of getting good grades. Is it measurable? Well, not really. What does good mean? I might define good in a different way than you define good, so thinking about that, is it attainable? I don't know. How can you attain goodness? What's good to you is different than what's good to me. It might be different than what's good to your parents. Is it realistic? Well, I guess it depends on how you define good. I guess it can be realistic if you define good as something that you can achieve. And timely, of course, there's no time attached, right? I can't tell if you're a grade schooler or in college. I can't tell if it's for a quarter or a semester or a whole year. There's no time attached at all. So here would be a better goal, a SMART goal. I want to get a 3.0 by the end of the quarter. Is it specific? Yeah, it's got 3.0. It's got the end of the quarter. Those are both pretty specific. Is it measurable? Well, sure. We can go through your grades and figure out if your grades are a 3.0 or if it's higher or lower. Is it attainable? I would say that all students could be proficient if they really tried and if they got the right help, if they tried their hardest, right? So B's are attainable. Is it realistic? I think getting a B during a quarter can be realistic for any of my students. And is it timely? Well, yeah, we set a time at the very end, by the end of the quarter. So that makes it timely. So now it's your turn. Go to the counseling page in Schoology, click on Materials, then click on ICAP 9, then click on 9th grade Goals, and then follow the steps in the assignment to create your SMART goal. And then hopefully, by creating your SMART goals and using the ICAP, you'll successfully reach those goals, and at the end of the year, you'll be proud of your accomplishments.